What if I told you that the most successful military deception in human history started with a homeless man's dead body, a pocket full of love letters, and dry cleaning bills? Hi, I'm David Isbell. I want to welcome you to Things I Never Learned in School. We're starting off our podcast in our Redacted History series with a series called World War II Smoke and Mirrors. As we're spending the next few weeks together, I want you to travel back in time and feel like we're in World War II. The world is in turmoil, the world is in chaos, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to win this war, to get out of this war, to get done with this war. And so, several times throughout this war, strange, unconventional, even some downright weird ideas were floated around of how to fix things, how to get things right. This is one of those stories. This is called Operation Mincemeat. It's 1943. The Allies need to take control of Sicily. They need to get over into Europe so that they can then get in and get to Italy. So they were trying to figure out, how can we get there? How can we get to Italy? We need to get in through Sicily. Hitler and his forces knew that they wanted to go in through Sicily because they knew how important it was. They knew, additionally, that they had control and that if they tried to go in through Sicily, it would be a bloodbath. So the Allies had to find a way of getting Hitler to leave Sicily, getting his forces to leave so that they could find a way in. Because without Sicily, we can't get Europe. The British intelligence was looking for ideas, trying to find ideas. And the idea came from one of the most unusual and unexpected places you could imagine. A British military officer by the name of Ian Fleming, who you may or may not have heard of. If you haven't, Ian Fleming was a writer after he was in the military, and he came up with a character by the name of James Bond. Now, Ian Fleming had been reading lots of detective stories at the time, and he read a 1937 detective novel. And in that detective novel, fiction story, was a scheme that he thought just might work. So he pitches it to all of his superiors, and they say, hey, let's give it a shot. The whole thing kicks off after a homeless man was found dead in London. So what do they do with this homeless man? Well, they take this homeless man and they say, we are going to turn him into a high-ranking military officer from the British military. We're going to make him a naval officer, a high-ranking official in the British Navy. We're going to give him a bunch of fake paperwork, and we're going to let the Germans think that we're going to do something that we're not going to do. So they get to discussing this plan, they get to going over this plan and talking about this plan, and they go, hold on, we have an issue. Our naval officers, their suits are made specifically for them. They're custom tailored for each officer to make sure it's a perfect fit. Now listen, I don't know about you, But the idea of calling up one of the best suit makers in London and saying, hey, we need you to come make a naval officer suit for one of our guys. Oh, but he's dead already. And he's really gonna kind of look like a homeless guy, but don't ignore that. And I know it's weird, but you can't tell anybody either. And we need this to be a secret. So they said, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And they realized, hold on, if we make him a major in the Royal Marines, their uniforms are a little bit baggier. They don't fit quite the same. So we could take that and we could fit it to where it fits him good enough. And then we don't have to worry about hiring some guy to make this suit. That's a good idea. So they change him into a British Royal Marine, and he becomes Major William Martin. Major William Martin never existed, does not exist, did not exist, but they made him exist. They gave him his ID, his military ID. They gave him a fun little story. Major William Martin had recently gotten engaged. Remember, this guy doesn't exist. Had recently gotten engaged. Before he left London, he had even gone to the theater. He had bought an engagement ring for his fiancée, and he had gotten love letters from her. Not only that, his last trip to the dry cleaners, the dry cleaner was complaining because he hadn't paid his bills yet. They fake his ID. They fake his engagement. They give him a false receipt for an engagement ring. They give him a picture of a different military person, officer, secretary, I don't know which, to put in his wallet. They have somebody write love letters to him. They even had his dad, whoever that was, write him some letters about him not living up to his potential. They put a receipt from his dry cleaning in with a note saying, you haven't paid your bills. You need to pay them before the next time. And they take a little ticket stub from a play that was happening in London. And they say that was what he did. That was his last night before he got shipped out over here. And they do all of this to create this character of Major William Martin. Now, all of that's great and all of that's fun, but how does that achieve our story? Well, they also take a briefcase and they chain it to his wrist. And inside that briefcase, they have a letter from London to an officer in Tunisia. Tunisia's in Africa, and this is telling this officer that they're going to be moving all of their forces. They're going to be moving from where they are in Africa, and they're going to go into Greece, and they're going to go into Sardinia, because that's where the next attack is going to be. And so this is the part that they're hoping that the Germans are going to take the bait on. They're hoping the Germans are going to take the bait on him. But they still have a problem. This is a dead dude, and he's been dead for a minute. And so they go, hey, we've got to do something with this. So they take this guy called Charles Fraser Smith. Charles Fraser Smith is the person that Ian Fleming uses as his model for the character Q, who is the guy who creates all of the fascinating tools and weapons and things like that in James Bond. He designs this canister, and basically it's a carton or a crate and it's filled with dry ice, and probably other things as well, but it's there to keep the body from decomposing any more than it already has. So they say, okay, we've got this body. We've got it in this canister. We've invented this story. They take one of England's top race car drivers, of all people, and they say, we need you to drive this carton, this crate, all the way out to the HMS Seraph. And we need to get there fast. So that's why we're using you. But we need to get there safely. So you gotta be careful, but you gotta go quick. So he gets on it, takes it out to the HMS Seraph. The HMS Seraph is one of England's submarines. And they put it on the submarine. The captain orders them to surface and tells everyone else to go down below because they have to release some meteorological devices. But devices that are gonna help them to predict weather and things like that. And so it's nothing big, it's not a big deal, but everybody else go below because we can handle this. So the officers of the ship or of the submarine stay on deck. They open the crate. They drop the body about a mile or two outside the coast of Spain. Now, Spain was neutral at this time. But there were a lot of people in Spain that were in favor of the Germans and were friends with German spies. And so what England knew was, yeah, Spain's not gonna do this, but somebody's gonna find out. And somebody's gonna tell those German spies, and they're gonna report back to Hitler. And so we're hoping that if they find this body, somebody's gonna get this information, they're gonna give it to one of these German spies. These German spies are gonna get it to Hitler. Hitler's gonna believe our story. Hitler's gonna move his army out of Sicily and move it over to Greece and Sardinia, and then we're gonna go into Sicily and case closed. We're gonna be running the show. That's a lot of hoping. They drop the body in the water. Hours later, day later, a fisherman finds the body floating in the ocean, brings it to shore, and they do their research. And as they start to do their research on this body, they discover that they have the body of Major William Martin. And they believe everything about Major William Martin is true. They get open the briefcase. They run it by all of their top people to say, is this real? And all of their top people say, we don't see anything that shows us that this is fake. Let's get this to Hitler. Hitler says, are you sure? Are you sure? And they say, we're sure. This is real. So Hitler takes his army, moves over to Greece, moves over to Sardinia, and leaves almost completely empty Sicily. When the Allies finally storm the beaches of Sicily, the doors are practically wide open. A homeless man, a fake Marine, and a briefcase full of lies, they saved thousands of Allied soldiers' lives and made Hitler and Mussolini look like idiots. In 2 weeks, we're gonna stay in the shadows of World War II to look at a magician who used giant mirrors and illusions to make an entire British army disappear in the desert. You don't wanna miss that. But until then, just remember, the next time that you think one of your ideas are a little too weird or out there, remember, a dead guy, James Bond, and a pocket full of fake love letters literally saved Western civilization. Now, why the hell didn't I learn that in school? I'm David. This is Things I Never Learned in School. I'll see you next time.